Hello, welcome to my talk on sovereign AI, which is Redpanda's vision for Gen AI in data-intensive applications. My name is Tyler Rockwood. I'm a software engineer at Redpanda. I lead up our sovereign AI efforts. I'm based out of Madison. I formerly worked at Google Cloud on database infrastructure and at an email client called Shortwave. So we're going to talk about the intersection of Gen AI and streaming. So very cool. I'm going to start out by talking about traditionally sort of how people have been experimenting and using Gen AI in their workplace. And it can be a challenge to leverage Gen AI in a lot of workplaces right now, just because of a lot of the leading models are in these hosted services that are exposed over the public internet, and getting your most sensitive and valuable data that can derive the most benefit for your business into those models can just be like a challenge from a legal perspective, right? Of getting the data signed off and jump through all the hoops that you need to. And on top of that, you can build easily with these internet services, but when you run this in production and you got to scale it up, you got to worry about rate limiting and throttling on the provider. You got to make sure your delivery guarantees are working because this is going over the public internet, leaving your VPC. You've got to make sure all these production readiness things work after you quickly write up your Python script that can grab some data out of your broker or your database and go hit these endpoints and come back and do whatever you need to do. There can be better ways of doing this. And that's what Redpanda's vision for sovereign AI is that we can bring the model to the data instead of sending the data to the model, right? So we can bring in these these very powerful open source LLMs and bring them into your VPC and process them in your data pipelines locally so that you are full steward over your data and you don't have to worry about getting sign off because you own all the infrastructure and there's no sharing with another third party, right? So we have realized this vision for what sovereign AI is in Redpanda using our connectivity tool called Redpanda Connect. So Redpanda Connect is a full stream processor that lets you write pipelines in YAML configuration, and it has support for an input, a series of processing steps in a pipeline, and an output. And we have hundreds of different components you can use for the inputs and outputs and processing steps. And some of those are these Gen AI processors that I'm going to talk about and show a demo of in a little bit. So we have the ability to, like I said, locally, where you run on a GPU that's attached to that same instance that's doing your stream processing using Ollama, or you can also call out to different AI services such as OpenAI, Vertex, or Bedrock AI if you are using a hypercloud. And the nice thing is because this is just a simple YAML configuration and the YAML configurations are very similar between these different providers, makes it super easy to swap them out. We support a bunch of different AI systems, everything from OpenAI, Bedrock, Ollama that I've talked about, but also a bunch of vector databases as outputs and also as processing steps if you want to query that to do sort of enrichment or any sort of like RAG sort of step, which we'll see a demo of here in a little bit. But so some supported vector databases, Pinecone, Quadrant, Elasticsearch, Mongo, also ClickHouse, which we'll see in our demo here in a moment. This is an example configuration file for Redpanda Connect in a data streaming pipeline that takes data from Redpanda Cloud in this RAG ingestion topic, right? And what it's going to do is send it through a series of processing steps. And for this example, we just have one, which is going to use an embeddings processor using a local embeddings engine from Ollama. And it's going to use the Snowflake's Arctic Embed model to take the event data from our topic in Redpanda and compute the embeddings. And then we're going to send that to Quadrant. We can do retrieval later with it. And if you want to know more about Quadrant, it's a great vector database with hybrid managed offering on your own infrastructure. Quadrant's going to be sharing, and they have the next talk. So stick around after my talk, and you can hear and learn more about Quadrant. So we're going to transition into a live demo now of a Gen AI pipeline that's going to be doing email recommendations. So I'm going to start by just walking you through my configuration file of this email recommendation pipeline. So this is an e-commerce application. I'm generating synthetic data, but in a real pipeline, you just swap this out for a Redpanda topic that you'd be reading from. And I'm building up essentially a JSON object that is my transaction that just happened in my e-commerce application. So I have things like a transaction ID, a product name, a category, how much it was, the user's ID, and the user's name. All of that was published when the user made a purchase, and now it's going through this pipeline. And what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to send that engagement follow-up emails to call them to say, hey, come back, maybe you want to also buy this. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use that same embeddings model to create an embedding based on what the user just purchased so that we can do a RAG, a retrieval augmented generation step. So we're going to then query ClickHouse, which is the data store we're using in this demo, to, out of all the sales that have happened, excuse me, that wasn't for this product and not for this user, grab the top 3 closest items to what the user just purchased, right? So we're going to query ClickHouse, get a few similar products, and we're going to continue on in our pipeline. And we're going to ask Llama 3.2 using our Ollama chat processors to generate an email subject and also an email body. And when we ask the LLM to generate our email body, we're going to inject those similar products that we had just purchased, that we had just queried for in ClickHouse, and ask the LLM, based on these items we just fetched from our database, please generate an email, and you can feel free to recommend some of these products. One of the other features that we just released that I'm excited to share about is using guard models or moderation models to be able to ensure that the output of your LLMs is safe and doesn't do anything like recommend, crime or do anything dangerous or say anything that would be offensive to people. So these Ollama, we support 2 different models for these Ollama moderation endpoints. So you can use Llama Guard 3, which is part of Meta's series of Llama models, a fine-tuned model to do exactly this. And then also we support Shield Gemma. But you give the prompt that you used, you give it the response the LLM generated, and then it will give you back the ability to say, was this safe or not, right? And we'll use that later in our pipeline to not send the email if either the body or the subject was considered unsafe. So now we have a series of outputs that we're going to do, and we're going to sort of fan these outputs out. We're going to send one output to this HTTP client, which is going to, from a mail service, it's going to send an email to our customer saying, please, we'll see what the LLM generates, but engaging them and telling them to come back to our store. Here's some similar products. We're gonna do a little bit of processing on that, but here's where we say, if the body was not safe or the subject's not safe, then delete this message from the rest of the pipeline, which means that we won't send that email to the HTTP output, but we will continue to do processing on the other outputs that we're sending to. So one we'll send to the LLM emails table in ClickHouse. We're gonna have another table where we store the emails that the LLM generated, so we can do things like see which ones are highly engaging, see if there are common patterns, if we need to tweak our prompt somehow, or you can generally build these sort of evaluation step into your pipelines of like, here's all the data that was generated, and we can go back and correlate data with that to make sure we're continuing to improve this pipeline over time and make sure our models aren't regressing and continue to send high quality outputs in emails. And then lastly, we're also going to generate some embeddings. We're going to send this data back into ClickHouse so that ClickHouse can, we can query that for later transactions that happen and say, this was a similar product purchase that just happened. You can use this in the recommendation pipeline. So you're always, so if there are new trends or something in terms of purchases, we can identify those quickly and in real time be recommending these purchases. So that is a description of my pipeline. I'm going to go ahead and run this now. So yeah, here we go. I'm going to run this. I'm going to inject some environment variables for my API key. And what this is going to do now is there's a lot of text here, but we're pulling down all those models for my pipeline. Those are already stored locally, and we're going to load these onto my local GPU. And if I look here, you're going to see these pop in as using GPU, memory, and CPU. But again, all this is running locally, right? So I'm not making any requests. And because we were just sending one email for the demonstrations of this demo, we shut down the pipeline afterwards. But in a real environment, this would be running continuously against a topic, pulling down the latest data. So now I'm going to switch over to my provider here. And we are going to look, this is the email that just got sent 19 seconds ago. We're going to see, here's the, latest deals and promotions on the phone you just bought. Thanks for doing that. And you can see the email here that the LLM generated. So that concludes my demo. Thank you for watching. We walk through what is Sovereign AI and how we can use that to build this high quality email recommendation pipeline for an e-commerce business, and including doing things like moderating, ensuring that the LLM outputs are safe and that you're using this in a manner that isn't going to cost you or be a liability. So thanks again for watching my demo. Feel free to ask any questions about Sovereign AI or Redpanda Connect. My contact info is up here. If you want to get a hold of me, it's also available for use today. You can either sign up for Redpanda Cloud and use any of these processors that I just demoed, or it's also available to use locally, so you can run and spin up just like I did in this demo. So thank you again for watching, and enjoy the rest of StreamFest.